This is a response video to the account Every Man an Island. I found his account a few weeks ago and I've been pretty happy I did because I feel like I've found a kindred spirit who's had some similar experiences to me. I agree with some of the stuff that he said, but I also disagree with some of that stuff. I too lived in China for 4 years. So his first argument is that people believing they can just move to another country and not need to change themselves is partially correct. You should obviously still go to the gym. You should also obviously still keep learning and focusing on yourself. But geopolitics and economics are important. Whether you like it or not, your country will affect how you are viewed when you go to another country. I, as a British American, have experienced this my whole life because, with an American accent in the United Kingdom, people will make stereotypes about me just based off the fact that I am American. And from an economic point of view, given that the United States and Western Europe are still some of the richest places in the world, people will assume that you are wealthier because of that background, or they will assume that maybe you will give them an opportunity to move with them if you date or marry to go back to their country. Not everybody, but obviously some people. So you will get some points that you wouldn't have had in your home country. Now let's move on to the thing about China. I disagree with the way that he frames this idea of the apartment in China. Yes, you do get a free apartment, or you used to get a free apartment for being English teacher, but his discussion of this with the cockroaches and the pollution is slightly off. When I lived in Tianjin, there was pollution, but the pollution in China does seem to be going down, especially if you're living in cities like Shanghai, Hangzhou, or Shenzhen. Even Beijing has less pollution than it used to have. In terms of the cockroaches, when I lived in Chicago a few years ago, I saw more cockroaches in those apartments, and I was living in one of the best places in the city than I ever saw in China. I never saw cockroaches in China. I think this is more a southern China thing, though I didn't know that maybe Wuhan was south enough to get this. Now, moving on to the other stuff, I too was at a point in my career in China after being a teacher for 2.5 years, realizing that I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. Now, why did I think that? Well, I wanted to come back to the United States and do something related to China because I have a master's on China, and teaching had just been the first way to put a foot in China to get a lay of the area because I had only read about it in books and I actually wanted to really experience it. So I thought education is not the best career in the United States. And I also don't want to be doing education when I come back to the United States. I want to be doing something related to US China relations that is a little different. So, the two reasons I wanted to do something more, but also I didn't believe that education was the best industry in the United States because teachers are not really well paid over here or even in the United Kingdom. But in his conversations about seeing people in China who have remained teachers, his main point is that they didn't want to remain there. But the question is, why have they remained there? Do they just realize that their life was better there? But could the other argument be that he believed that everybody, their end goal should be to come back to the United States? Because maybe these people just realized, oh, maybe my life is better than China and I don't need to come back to the United States. Which gets to my next thing is my own depression coming back to the United States has not necessarily been wondering whether my years spent in China were a waste of time. It's more noticing the trade war happening and US-China relations getting worse, realizing that I think I do have the knowledge to kind of help out here, and seeing people like Trump, who doesn't appear to know much about this stuff, or even our last ambassador to China didn't speak any Chinese, and kind of thinking, oh, I wonder if like even just any average American teacher in China could maybe have a better understanding of Chinese than the people who are actually leading the charge in US China relations. So my depression comes from feeling helpless, knowing that maybe I could actually, in my own humble way, help the situation a little bit better, but seeing people who I don't know if they actually have really spent any time in China leading the charge. So the question here is, the people who are happy in China, are they really in a bad situation compared to people who have their end goal to come back to the United States? Because Chinese companies are doing pretty well around the world right now, and it might even get better, especially if the United States becomes isolationist. Those people who remained in China, if they are English teachers, the question is, will English remain an important skill in China? I believe so, because I don't see the world learning Chinese anytime soon, and English will remain the main language. And to do business around the world, you need to learn English. So these people who are living pretty good lives, and the people who remained English teachers that I know are still living very good lives. And I kind of regret leaving being an English teacher. I left to do things in marketing and translation and video games. I joined the video game industry in China seeing that it would go somewhere. And I feel like my own career has been hurt in the past few years due to economics, with it being really expensive in the United States and companies not wanting to pay somebody the money to do the job that you could do in China, but also things like TikTok maybe getting banned, causing some companies not want to do business in China, in America, but they're doing business in other countries. The people who remain in China might be doing pretty well in the next 10, 20 years, but who knows where the United States is going. I'm not saying that it's going to be in a worse situation than China, but we also don't know where the future is going. So why is life in the United States better than remaining being just an English teacher in China? Especially if you come back here, your skills are not useful, even though they are useful in like the grand scheme of things. And you have to go get some normal job working $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year in your mid-30s, doing something that maybe you don't really have your heart in. And maybe these people who remained in China teaching English, they actually love what they're doing, and there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of the people that I also criticized for remaining to be English teachers, the criticism was not that they were teaching English, it was that they were teaching English using the money to drink around and not have any goals in life, and not respecting the people that they were working with because they just saw the job as something easy to do. But there were other people who really enjoyed the job, and they learn Chinese and they learn the culture and they make actual friends with the people, and they might even use the money they take from teaching English to start their own business to really become part of the culture there. And some people, even if they're worried about the political situation, they take the money and they go to Vietnam and they start their own English school or something else. Life is what you make it. So partially the problem here is just assuming that your life end goal needs to be in the United States, because the world is a big place and you are an individual first. So I probably left some things out here, but yeah, that's it. Bye-bye.